Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 35, Spring Break. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson.
And this is Mark.
Mark's back.
Yeah. In this episode, we're going to talk about the games that we've been playing lately and our spring break. Going to be a shorter episode, right?
Yes.
Right?
We always say
think
that.
so.
We'll see how that goes.
2.5 hours later.
Yeah.
It's funny. We never know how long it's going to be because sometimes we go on tangents a little bit.
We do. Sometimes I remove like 15-minute blocks.
Right.
Multiple 15-minute blocks.
Yeah.
Right. You guys only get the best, though. The best bits.
Did you guys have a good spring break?
Yeah. My family left me for a week, which was fine. I had to stay back and work. Did get some games in that week, which was really good. So yeah, wasn't too bad.
Nice. How about you, Tyson?
We had illnesses in my house, and so it wasn't really a spring break. At least the kids were out of school already, so you didn't have to pull them out of school. But it was not really a break, I'd say. But it was good times once they got better.
Weird sickness.
Yeah.
You guys have had a bad string of luck.
Mark, did you take any time off?
I didn't. I was a passive observer of my kids and their spring break and got to enjoy watching them have the time of their lives while I did nothing fun.
I visited family. We did a road trip and visited my in-laws for a few days and then my parents and my brother. So we had a good time, made it home safely. In record time, 8 hours from door to door, which was impressive.
That is impressive. I've done that drive many times. 8 hours is a great time.
Yeah.
It's gone from maybe 9.5 to 16 hours for me.
Yeah. I've done one of those too.
We've done that.
On the way out, it took us 10.5 hours and our little guy puked like an hour and a half before we got there. So that was awesome. But it was a good time, but happy to be home. Happy to be back gaming with you guys. We played Cthulhu Death May Die last weekend, which was amazing.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the most epic experiences I've ever had. And definitely the top gaming experience for me this year. So we'll dig into
Teaser.
that. Yeah, we'll dig into that a little bit more. But
All
yeah,
right.
it was
Well,
awesome.
should we talk about the games we've been playing lately?
Let's do it.
All right. Kevin, you want to go first?
I'll kick it off. So I mentioned I got to play a few games during spring break, and this is one of them. So this is 51st State, the Ultimate Edition. I talked about this one in the last podcast about what I'm excited about, and very excited I got to play it. So real quick on how 51st State plays. So this game is set in a post-apocalyptic version of the United States. I think it's the Neuroshima world that's been built by Portal Games and Ignacy Trzewiczek. So this game, it's a card game. It's an engine builder, tableau builder. The way it works is you get a hand of cards to start the game. So you get 6 cards to choose from. You pick 4 of those. Then you go to what's called a lookout phase. And the lookout phase is a drafting phase. So starting with the first player, you draft a card. It goes around to the last player. They draft a card. There'll be 1 card left over. And then you repeat that process. It's a snake draft. So then the last person will draft and it goes to the first player. So you'll have 6 cards in your hand to start the game. And then you take actions. So the first player will take an action. And there's a number of things that you can do. And this is the coolest part of the game, in my opinion, are the cards. They're multi-use cards. You can do 3 different things with those cards. So each card will have a distance value on the card. So it's from 1 to 3. And that's how much it costs to get that card played. So to play a card, you have contact tokens, and there's a gray contact token, and you spend contact tokens based on the distance value to get the card in front of you. That's one thing that you can do. The next thing you can do is you can make a deal with that card. And these cards are various locations that you're coming across. So you can make a deal with gas station, for example.
Radioactive fuel.
Or radioactive fuel. You can make a deal with basically every card in the game. To make a deal, you have contact tokens that are blue. You spend those. You turn the card upside down. There's a little deal like you're getting something, either victory points or resources, and you tuck it under your player board. Okay? That's the second thing you can do. The third thing you can do is you can raise the card. So you can burn it to the ground and get spoils from that location. So you spend red contact tokens to burn that card to the ground, and then you immediately get a bonus for that. So a lot of different choices to make. There's also other cards you can buy that get you these contact tokens. You can raise other players' cards, which is kind of cool. There's a defense value that's on their player board. If you have enough of the red tokens, you can burn their locations to the ground, which is a cool part of the game because it's very much an engine builder. You can, destroy or partially destroy somebody
Take
else's.
out a key component of somebody's engine to slow them down significantly by raising their stuff.
Yeah. Tyson may sound slightly bitter because he was the target of my raising.
I think I was the only one who really was the target of raising for the games we played. But as somebody who was getting raised multiple times, I didn't feel bad about it. One, because of the nature of the game. This is a post-apocalyptic Mad Max style world.
Right. It's very thematic, right?
And it feels like, of course I'm going to go and be cutthroat with you a little bit, but also because the information is open. You can see who's starting to collect those tokens to start raising a property, and it becomes pretty apparent if you're paying attention that, he's collecting 4 or 5 tokens. That means that Kevin's probably coming for somebody, and looking at the scoreboard right now, it's probably going to be me.
Yeah, but if you jump out in the lead, which you did in that game, then you become
a target,
right? It's like somebody's got to slow that person down, right?
And that's why none of us felt bad about raising your stuff or watching your stuff burn either, because you were the early leader in the clubhouse anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it was there are engines that can be built in there that start to feel like they're running away with it, and without that raise component in it, like
you would have probably won in 3 rounds.
It would have been really fast over. It was almost a necessary part of the game for somebody to raise my stuff because of how efficient my engine became very early on.
That almost reminds me of We're Doomed. I know it's a completely different game, but when someone starts getting too much influence, they get nuked.
Yep.
And they're out of the game. Or you can see when they're building up their resource tokens, it's like,
something's going
Kevin's
down.
about to nuke someone.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because this game is very much a race. The way the end game is triggered is whoever gets to 25 points first wins, right? So if somebody jumps out really quick and gets to that 25, then it's, game over. So it's very much a strategic decision to slow somebody down who has a good engine going, for sure.
And it's interesting because it can be hard to get that engine going. It can be hard to figure out, how do I do that? Because of these multi-use cards, which I love, by the way, just like you, Kevin, I think they're fantastic. But because of those multi-use cards, there's a lot of different potential options you can be doing with it. So it's easy to be distracted by, do I make a deal? Do I build this one? Do I raise it? How do I get my resources to be able to work towards what I want to do with it? And I think the part of that makes that even more of a challenging decision, and I think probably my favorite thing about this game, is that the resources are finite and limited to the round that they are in. So at the end of every round, any excess resources you may have acquired during the round just disappear.
They're gone.
They don't carry over into the next round.
Unless you have a place to store them, and that's a card you have to get down.
Yep.
Right? But you may not get those cards. So it's very much an efficiency puzzle.
And it is finite,
right?
Those storage places.
Yes.
You can only store a certain amount. So you can't sit there and create an engine that is a resource producing engine so you can do anything you want, because those resources just disappear. So you've got to find a way to efficiently use all the resources that you acquire during that round. And I love how it feels to be able to maximize that and have no resources at the end of the round and no cards in your hand, because you did the perfect round and you set it up so that everything that you produced was used and everything that you had to build was built or raised or whatever it was. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, if you have 18 people left over, you're like,
Well, that was one of the biggest lessons, right? Where you realize that if your strategy is to dominate the market of one resource, thinking that I can produce a lot of this very easily, and then realize that you can't use these or it's not desirable, you've wasted multiple turns and probably are not going to recover.
Right. At the end of the day, the thing you need to be focusing on are getting points, and it's super easy to get distracted, I think, from getting points because there are a lot of fun, cool things that you can do in this game, and it feels fun to do all of this.
Like when do you pivot from building my engine to
executing
your engine? There's a balance there, and it's kind of fun trying to figure that out. Well, so we talked about raising locations. So if you raise a location, somebody else's location, it turns into ruins. And I didn't talk about developing, and developing is another super interesting thing, right? Because it's hard to get those 3-cost cards out. But if you have a ruins or another card that matches a symbol, you can spend 1 brick to develop that card and get a better card out. And that's another decision to make in the game, right?
Well, especially because it reduces the amount of resources you would otherwise spend to get that card out.
Yep. It's much more efficient. It makes getting your locations raised a little bit easier to swallow because you say, now I have a ruins, I've got a brick, I can get this 3-cost card out. Right?
And it gives you a point when you develop something.
And it gives you a point. Yep.
And this was a point that I think I didn't catch on to in the first play until too late in the game because I felt like the really cool estates that you could build out were too expensive and I wasn't going to have the resources to be able to ever use those. And so I would make deals or whatever just to get rid of those cards or not draw them when they were available. However, when I realized that the bricks allow you to do the development and you can actually take advantage of that for less cost than you normally would, that was a light bulb going off. And I thought, oh man, this would have been a huge difference maker.
Yeah. And I got a card in front of me that said I get, during the production phase, I get a ruins card in front of me. And I'm like, well, why would I want that?
Yeah.
Of course I want that because I can spend 1 brick to get any card out of my hand out onto the table and I get a point. So I'm like, that's awesome. And there's so many of those, like as you play it more, those light bulb moments where you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. You know,
I was super impressed by how efficient this game was. Like everything, the use of the space on the card, everything about all the resources and how you're activating and using things. It was very efficient. The mechanics did not have any degree of fiddliness to me at all. I think the one complaint I have about this game at all is the fact that the text on the cards is so small that it's really difficult to read, which increases the time it takes to actually play the game to some extent because there is a draft phase and everybody's wanting to know what's on those cards, but everybody has to take a turn to read each individual card essentially because it's hard to see.
Dan forgot his glasses both times we played. So,
but in fairness, we did talk about this after the play and thought, the sacrifice you'd have to make to enlarge that was to get rid of some of the graphics, which are very cool too. So,
agreed.
You know, it's not the worst thing ever, at least in my opinion. You can't have both; they don't all fit.
Yep.
Yeah, and the art is phenomenal. It's cool. It really brings really cool. a good vibe towards the whole experience.
It's surprisingly thematic.
Yeah,
and we had some fun, I think, with the theme.
Well, I was surprised you didn't mention, Tyson, that being able to have open production, which while it's a competitive, game where you're trying to build your own engine, you can also set it up a way to enable the other players for better or worse.
Yep.
And watching how that all created and developed over time really influenced your strategy too, because it when somebody has an open production card, only one player can take advantage during the round. And so you have to be very strategic about when you're going to, or if you're going to use that person's resource.
And you don't get the benefit. You can't place on your own open production card that's in front of you.
You do get a person, though.
You do get something out of it when somebody uses yours, which is really good. But it is this decision of, do I place this down and try and make somebody use my stuff, potentially giving them some sort of benefit that they're looking for, but also getting something out of it for myself that now I have to decide, am I going to be able to use this resource that they're giving me? Because I found that a number of times. Dan actually timed it perfectly to use my open productions a number of times so that when he would use it and I would get my person, I had no ability to use that person. So it was like,
perfect.
Oh, it's a wasted resource. I can't do anything with it, but Dan could do exactly what he needed to do. And I thought that was great.
And this is why in the draft phase, you grabbed a bunch of cards that really didn't help me because I knew that I would never be able to take advantage of those given the turn order.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have the Ultimate Edition, right?
Yep.
Does this have expansions with it?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. We played Well, actually, both times we played with an expansion. We played with New Era the first time and then Allies the second time. And I love how they incorporate the expansions because for New Era and then there's winter cards, you just add those cards to the deck and you're done. And then Allies is the same. You have cards that you add to the deck and then it adds a few different tokens. There's gangs that are in there, but very light on additional rules. So it wasn't too much more to throw that in, and it added a completely different aspect to the game, I thought. So in the Ultimate Edition, you've got 6 or 7, I think, different expansions you can throw in.
And you mentioned drafting cards, right? Other than that, do you start out with asymmetric player powers at all, or is that more just determined by the cards that you draft?
No, you do. There are asymmetric powers. So each board has a production on it. The production's going to be different for each faction that you play. And then there are actions that are specific to you. They're all similar. You're getting either the red contact tokens or the blue contact tokens, or is it the gray ones as well? Is it all contact tokens? I can't remember for sure. Yeah. So the cost for getting those is different per faction. And then everybody has the same ability where you can trade in 2 guys to get a resource of your choice or draw a card. So not wildly different varying abilities, but they're different enough where it feels different to play.
They push you in a different direction of what your strategy could be in the game. And the 2 factions I played, it really did feel like, oh, this one is more efficient at doing this, so I need to go down this route because the resource that it produces most efficiently is going to help me raise buildings or help me build buildings. And so I have to go that direction. And it kind of pushes you in a direction.
But the game is still very tactical because you don't know what cards are going to come out in that draft. You don't know if they're going to be available to you or not. So you have to be able to think on your feet and pivot if something presents itself in the draft.
And what's funny about it is when we sat down at the table to play it, and I said, 51st state, why don't they just call it Texas? I'm from Texas, and we're loud and proud of always talking about forming our own nations and stuff. And we all kind of laughed about it, and there's actually a faction that is Texas that I played with the second time. I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then when I realized what their production abilities were, I realized that they're highly disadvantaged, which ticked me off. I felt like it was a shot of my culture, my heritage, but regardless, there may have been some user error, but it was funny how that's what we led with. And then we wound up actually saying, oh, what do you know? There is a Texas faction in here.
I had no idea. I started looking through them. I'm like, hey, there you go.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this should be easier to produce guns. Why is this so difficult? Why can't I produce more gas here? This is factually inaccurate.
But I mean, that's part of the theme in there too, because like, as I thought about it more, it's not just Texas that has a problem producing guns. It's everywhere that has a problem producing guns. And this is post-apocalyptic world. Guns are a high
currency.
They're a hot ticket item that everybody wants. And you feel that in this game that, hey, they have the potential to create a lot of control, especially when they are the means by which you can start raising things. Right. And so it makes this really interesting decision where, again, because it's open information, somebody starts collecting guns and finds a gun engine, and you're going to keep an eye out on them because you know inevitably that means that they're going to start raising stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Nice. It's a great game. I'm looking forward to playing it some more and exploring the expansion content and everything.
Yeah, I was out of town both times you guys played it, and I feel like I missed out. So
we'll have to get you in on a game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome.
Yep.
We don't talk a lot about Portal games. We don't play a lot of Portal games.
We played 2 like recently, right?
We've played Brazil Imperial.
Yep.
And then
this one.
This one. But beyond that, our group does not play a lot of Portal games.
I own a couple.
Tell us, what do you have, Tyson?
I have Havoc, which I love. Cry Havoc is an area control dudes on a map style game where think Avatar, the first movie, that you've got an invasive species or coming onto a different planet and raising it for all of its resources. I love that game. And it's got multi-use cards similar to 51st State that I really like about it. And then I also have Tides of Madness, which is a 2-player game that I haven't played, actually. I own that one, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, and I've got Imperial Settlers, which is based on the 51st State mechanics. That's a little bit different. So I played that a long time ago.
Nice. I don't think I own any Portal games.
I think they do a good production overall. Like they're their designs and their overall production quality are good, and I like them, but I don't have a ton of them.
You own Detective, right? Or did you get rid of that one?
I do.
Detective.
I have Detective, and I have the Dune version of Detective as well. So I do have a couple.
Yeah,
and I haven't played either of them yet.
I want to play Detective.
I do too. I think my wife would love that.
And so yeah, my wife encouraged me to buy it because she's really into crime dramas and stuff like that. But it's a long one, I think. I think it's like
that's
two to three hour
That's why
game,
I played.
Right?
I got the Detective Season 1 because it's kind of a shorter, bite-sized version of that.
That's right. Yeah,
and I have that one, and I've talked about it on the podcast. But I really liked that one.
Yeah. I guess we've played more or have more than I thought we did. Yeah. Especially when Tyson shares what board games are in his collection with us.
Yeah, because I hide those from you.
That was 51st State.
One of the games that I got to play while I was on vacation is Undaunted Normandy. And I was exposed to this by one of the designers, David Thompson, at Origins last year. I talked about that in our Origins episode. That was a really cool experience. Unfortunately, I had not gotten it back to the table until just recently. And it was co-designed by Trevor Benjamin. It's a 1v1 World War II deck builder. There are a bunch of different scenarios that you can play. And for each scenario, it has a map set up with different tiles. And then it tells you what units that you'll have available to you. My son Logan played as the Germans the entire time. So we got 6 games in. I played as the Americans. We had a blast with this. So basically, it's really simple. You start out with soldiers or cards that represent soldiers, and you have some in your supply for each type, and then you have a starting deck. So what you do after everything's set up, you draw 4 cards each round, and you choose one card to be the initiative card. Okay. So they have different initiative values, usually tied to how powerful of a unit or a card it is. And you put them face down and then you reveal them. And whoever has the higher initiative gets to go first that round. And if there's a tie, whoever has the initiative already maintains it. Whatever initiative card you choose, you're sacrificing for that round. So you might sacrifice one of your more powerful cards to go first. And when you go first, you're playing all 3 of your cards, and then the other player is going to play their 3 cards. So you're moving your soldiers around this scenario map, trying to accomplish whatever the objective is. Sometimes that is just getting a combat points or based on certain locations on the map that you have to secure. Or you have to suppress the other player by killing off all their riflemen from off the board. Okay, so there's these counters that represent a unit that are all over the board, and you're moving them around. When you attack one, you'll roll a die, and based on how far away the unit is, what the defense on that unit is, and also the tile that they're on. If they're in an open field, it's a 0. They're not well defended. If they're in a house, it's like a 2 or a 3. If they're up on a hill, it's a higher defense. So those 3 things combine to make the value that you have to roll with the attack dice, which are 10-sided dice. If you roll a 10 or a 0, it's an automatic hit. Otherwise, whatever it is to hit the person. And a lot of times you miss, and that's okay. It's just part of the game. But each time you attack a counter and kill a guy with a successful roll, your opposing player has to remove that card either from their hand, so they have one less card to play that round, or their discard deck or their draw deck. If they don't have it in any of those places, the counter goes off the map. If it was their last card of that unit in their supply, then that unit's not coming back up on the map. So just lots of cool little things like that going on. So I love how simple it is, how quick it plays. The rounds are really fast, so you're going back and forth, taking turns. Initiative can be so important at times, and then other times it's like, I'm going to play a Fog of War card, which is a 1 value for initiative, and it's otherwise useless to you during the round. So you get Fog of War cards when you explore new tiles with your scout. You take on this Fog of War card, which is a trash card that you don't want. You can later cull it with one of the units. So sometimes you just throw out the one initiative fog of war. I don't care if I go first this round. Other times you're playing your platoon leader or whatever who has an 8 or a 9. So turn order is very important at times. The rounds play super quick. It's just a fascinating game. I love this game. I love that, Logan and I played 6 scenarios. We were playing 2 or 3 scenarios back to back to back within like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because they play relatively quickly. For the most part, they felt balanced. It was just a lot of fun. So one other thing about the Fog of War cards. So each card has like 2 to 4 different actions that you can do when you play the card, and you have to choose what one of those actions to do. So it might be move, attack. You could suppress another unit. One of the units allows you to add a Fog of War card to someone else's deck or to your opposing player's deck, which is awesome.
That's cool.
Just phenomenal game.
So I'm looking at the BGG page, 45 to 60 minutes. That seems pretty accurate then, right?
I feel like that's actually a little high.
Maybe quicker than that.
Yeah, I felt like we had one game where it played that long.
And you said that they're pretty balanced scenarios?
I felt like it, yeah.
Because one of the things I love about Memoir 44 is the scenarios aren't necessarily balanced, right? Because not every scenario in the war was balanced, right? So it's based on, historically accurate battles, but you immediately play, or you can immediately play the other side, and then you count up the medals in total from both sides, and whoever has the most wins, right? So that's the way that it kind of gets around that, not being as balanced as it could be. But if these scenarios are more balanced, there is some historical context for each scenario. Like there's a little paragraph, like, "Hey, this is what happened," and this is setting it up. I still felt like I won most of the scenarios that we played, but I felt like it could have gone either way on a few of them for sure. There was a couple that I dominated, but it was, lucky rolls. And the one that Logan won, he just destroyed me, but he again had lucky rolls. But and that doesn't bother me in these types of games.
No, it doesn't.
Not at all.
In I think the 5th and 6th scenario, the sniper unit starts coming out, and those dudes are powerful, and
that's cool.
It was fun. We also added in some of the rifleman units from the one of the expansion reinforcements. We started playing with those, and they could additionally throw grenades that would hit multiple units on the same tile. I'm all in on this. We played it a number of times while I was on vacation. I already had reinforcements. I pre-ordered Battle of Britain. I just got Stalingrad in the mail, and North Africa is on its way. So I am all in on this. Logan loves it. We've talked about it before, getting a side-by-side, two games of this going side-by-side with the 4 of us. It would be awesome.
So
it'd be fun.
Tyson was nice enough to get this one for me little over a year ago for Secret Santa. Like a dummy, I haven't played this one yet. It's like this game seems right up my alley, and I'm all in as well without having even played it. So I've got Stalingrad. It's being held up with the pre-order, but it's on its way. Battle for Britain. Oh, that's what it's being held up by, is Battle for Britain. And then I've got reinforcements already.
We're not supposed to buy duplicates of games.
I know.
But I do think that we've talked about this, the ability to have the same game that is a 2-player game on the table side by side means it's more likely to get to the table. I think that's the big problem for you, Kevin, probably.
It is.
Is that since this is a 2-player game, it's hard to find the time to play it. But I do think that if we're all playing the same game side by side, we will have a better chance at.
We should just all head to Kevin's after this. I'll grab my copy and let's go play.
Let's do it.
Because otherwise, if we played here, you'd have to run home and come back.
I could do that as well.
More efficient if we just all went over to your
house. I'm all
house.
about efficiency.
Okay.
Let's do it. Game room's ready to go. So let's do it.
I'm blown away by it. I love it. The deck building feels seamless, and culling the Fog of War cards from your hand feels so good, and I just love everything that does. And I'm excited to explore all the units that I haven't played with, and explore the different mechanics and scenarios and the campaign that is the Stalingrad game. So
I do have one question for you then, Tyler. Is with these 2-player games. So one of the I would love to play like Twilight Imperium. Sorry,
Twilight Struggle.
Twilight Struggle, right?
Yeah, I would too.
I'd love to play Twilight Struggle, but the opportunities that I've had to play Twilight Struggle are with people who are like experts at Twilight Struggle. And so I've been like, I don't want to play because what I hear is that if you're good at this game and you're a newbie playing with somebody who is good, you can just be expected to just be utterly crushed, and you have to get over that hump of 3 or 4 games worth of getting crushed. Does this game, do you feel like you introducing this to one of us, do you feel like we would be at a disadvantage or a severe disadvantage?
I think for the first play or two, you might be initially, but they play so fast that it wouldn't be an issue. At least with the units that I've played with up to this point, like I feel like I know how to use them pretty well. So, but you start, if I get further along in the scenarios or jump to the other versions of the game and like start adding in different units, I'm as newbie as you guys would be.
So what I'm hearing is we need to play.
We should play.
Tyson,
we
Mark. We need to kind of build up our skill set before Tyler comes into place. That's what I'm hearing.
No.
I do think that
we sit down and we play a couple scenarios. So we had 3 people on at game night. It was Mark, Kevin, and I on Saturday, and we ended up playing Cthulhu Death May Die. But I was willing to teach you two Undaunted Normandy, and then I also had the idea of, I could just play both of them at the same time.
Like a chess match.
No, just to give them the experience of playing a scenario or two. Yeah, because it's very well streamlined and simple enough that you guys are all very intelligent and very good at picking up games. You have lots of experience. It would not be hard for you to pick up this game and get
Sounds
into
like
the
you're just trying
strategy.
to pad your stats. That's
flattery will get you nowhere.
Except with me, keep flattering. Bring it on. I can use all I can get.
So snipers good.
I do think that the one thing that you pointed out, so like Twilight Struggle, I made that comparison already. It is a longer game than this. So because of the length of play, I don't think that, because how quick its plays based off of what you're saying, I don't think I would have a problem losing a few games of a quicker game. Yeah. So I'd be up for it.
So here, there's a new Twilight Struggle out, right?
Yes.
It's Twilight Struggle, Conflict in the Horn of Africa. And that one's only 35 to 75 minutes.
Ooh, nice.
So let's get that one.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That sounds interesting.
I love in Undaunted Normandy, there are times where we are playing initiative cards, doing our actions, and within like a minute and a half, doing another initiative card, playing our actions. The rounds they're fast, they're quick. It does not feel slow at all. And I'm just constantly getting this awesome decision of, crap, what do I play for my initiative? What am I willing to sacrifice? What do I give up? Oh, I'm going to go with a crappy card but Logan played a Fog of War. Sweet, I get it, and then I've still got this hand of awesome cards to play. So the rounds are just super quick, and I love that about this game.
Well, the question I have too is that it seems like, at least in the case of a game like Memoir 44, where supreme strategy doesn't always yield the result, right? I mean, there are games that we've played where you think, I've got the best cards, I've got the best position, I've got this set up to where I'm about to run the table, and then when you roll and you execute, it all falls apart.
Yeah.
And you can't figure out what just happened. And so I think what I'm hearing is that there's enough variability to where even if you have that experience edge, then maybe it equalizes a little bit to where it doesn't necessarily play out just because you've positioned yourself.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It gives you the best chance, but it doesn't guarantee that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, there was one game where I had killed like 15 or 16 of Logan's soldiers, and he had killed like 2 of mine. And I was just hitting on every roll, and it was just insane. My sniper was just on fire that game. So I don't know. It's fantastic. I love it. I'm excited to play it more. I'm excited to finish up Normandy. We're going to swap roles, and I'm going to play as the Germans, and he's going to play as the Americans once we finish all 12 scenarios. So this game's incredible.
Swap roles.
Dice rolls. I get it.
I like it. So, yeah, that's Undaunted Normandy from Osprey Games.
Well, speaking of rolls and rolling dice, because you know how much I like dice rolling, I did get to play a game that was full of dice rolling. This is a game I've been playing a lot of lately on Board Game Arena, actually, but it's Rallyman GT. Rallyman GT is designed by Jean-Christophe Bouvier and published by Holy Grail Games. It's a 1 to 6 player dice rolling push your luck race car game. So essentially what you're doing in this game is you're rolling dice, trying to get ahead on the track and race and win. I've played a number of like race games that are strictly race games, like race car or spaceship or whatever it may be. And I feel like they all have a common issue. And that would be that when you see a race car game, there is a clear, distinct leader. Like it's obvious, it's painfully obvious in like Euro games or other games, your leader can be obscured and you can still have the same effect. But in a race game, sometimes you have that leader and they're so far ahead that you know that you stand no chance of winning. And so there's a lot of angst and disappointment for me in race games because of that. This game, although it doesn't completely not have that experience, like you still have the experience of you could have a runaway leader. I'm engaged and I'm interested in the mechanics of the game and the gameplay even when that happens. So essentially what you're doing in this game is each player is placed on a track. These tracks are based off of hexagonal tiles and you can create your own tracks however you'd like and make a bunch of different shapes and things like that to create large or small racetracks. But you can set the number of laps that you're going to go around the track to determine the winner. But the core of this game is each time that it is your turn, you're going to roll a set of dice, but you can determine how many dice you want to roll. There are 6 dice that have from 1 to 6 that represent your gear that you're in. So essentially you can be in gear 1 to gear 6. You can't hop gears just like you would in a normal race car. Like you're going up or down in gear shifts as you would. And then there are also 2 white blank dice or more or less blank dice. And then there are 3 red dice, which are break dice. Each turn, what you're going to do is you're going to plan your route that you're going to drive. You're going to use dice to show where you're going, and you have to go in either ascending or descending order from the value that you're at. So if I'm racing and I'm starting the race, I have to go up gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, etc. You can place as many of the dice out as you choose to, but the trick here is that each dice has a hazard symbol on them. And the hazard symbol, if you get 3 hazards throughout your progression of your turn, then you have a crash type of a experience potentially where you can crash or like your car will have some effect and it can make you lose up to 2 turns essentially trying to write your stuff and it can be kind of devastating, but turns go really quickly and are pretty fun. So that's not that terrible of an experience. But if you roll your dice, so you're setting those dice up along the track and trying to figure out how fast you're going. Each time you go up, you roll a die each time, and you can choose to stop or continue going. So your push your luck element is you get to choose how many die you're going to use, and then you're going to continue. On the tracks are specific areas, so turns and corners where you have to reduce your speed or increase your speed to take those specific areas. And if you don't, you automatically get a hazard. And so like part of this game is you're trying to race and get in front of people at the opportune times and then increase your speed so that you're max out. Because when you end your turn, your speed is whatever speed you ended on is the speed you will start on in the next turn. So if you're racing to a turn and you get up to speed 6 and you're coming to a turn, just to get ahead of somebody, you have to find a way to slow down really fast. And remember, when you use these red dice, they're going to add additional possibility of getting hazards. And so it's going to make you like bail out and crash more likely. So there's this interesting push and pull push your luck kind of a vibe to it that makes it really fun. The other thing that I really liked about this game is that as you're racing, you cannot pass a car, even if you have more dice to use on your turn. You can't pass a car unless your gear is equal to or higher than what they are. So you have to be able to get fast enough to pass them. Thematically, that makes sense, right? And so there are some points at which you just can't, like they can position themselves in a way that they block you out so that you cannot pass them. And it makes for some really interesting decisions in this game. I've been playing a lot of this and I have had a lot of fun with it. And the fact that it's on BGA is one of the big reasons I'm playing a lot of this. I again, like I said, I don't typically love race games, but this one has had a lot of interesting decisions for me that I've enjoyed.
So we played this, the four of us played this back in December of 2021. And I think I was playing with about 75% knowledge of the rules.
Did I play?
You did.
Yes.
You were in it.
I believe you got last.
Clearly, you and I had the same level of knowledge.
I'm black. Tyson won it. I came in second, and I'm blaming my lack of 25% knowledge on my last two spin outs, and then Tyson passed me and won.
You know, it's funny because what I remember about this game is trying to play it during a really busy time at work and not really paying attention to what was going on. And the main recollection I have is over accelerating through the curves and actually watching my car spin and crash and wanting to smash my monitor because I couldn't figure out why I kept doing it. But I was clearly not paying
You're going too
attention.
fast.
I mean, I knew I was going too fast, but I was like, really? Do I have to witness this? I click, actually get back to work. And then when I finally take my turn, there I am.
Spinning out again.
Yeah, crashing and burning.
I
Awesome.
have no recollection of the game. I'm just blacking it out, apparently.
You did not do well.
I don't think the concept of this game is very hard to grasp, but like
No.
there's some finesse in it that makes it harder to play. And it's not one that you can actually, I think, pick up and just play. I think you do have to have that full comprehension of what the rules are to be able to play efficiently.
I mean, based on the theme, you inherently know, hey, I need to slow down when I
Right.
go around a corner, but there are some other things at play too.
See, I
so-
disagree though. If it's a race car game, the objective is go fast. Why would you? And clearly that strategy did not work out so well.
My
By
strategy
miracle.
of not reading the rules didn't work out well. So that's
the-
what happened there.
This is Holy Grail Games, right?
Yes.
Which is, as I understand it, gone now. So has anybody picked this game up? Has anybody heard anything about that?
No, but I think this was actually a reprint from Holy Grail Games. It was originally published, I think, in 2009, and Holy Grail Games took it and modified it a little bit. I think the hexagonal tiles and stuff were not part of it, and I think there's a few other like changes to the game that they made it larger. They improved the artwork. They did a couple of different things like that. So they took it and improved it from the original game. I don't know if somebody's going to pick it up after this.
Hopefully, at the very least, it doesn't disappear from BGA. So
Have you guys played any other race games? You played any, Tyler?
just the long shot, the dice game.
Definitely a race game, right?
You mean like car racing only specifically?
No, just any race game.
RC Pro-Am on the NES emulator is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Excite Bike, NES.
Love it.
Rad Racer.
Well, there's a couple
Our
Ryan.
knowledge of
Rat Race,
Race
Commodore
games, Nintendo
64. Commodore 64, Rat Race.
Oh, nice. So my favorite race game is probably one called Snowtails. You guys heard of this one?
Oh, I've heard it, but I don't.
I think I've heard you mention
Maybe
it
that's
before.
what it is. Yeah.
It's sled dog racing. Awesome, right? So you got these sled dogs and you're maneuvering them around this course. There's trees in the way.
These are Huskies, I presume.
Correct.
And you have a untrained leader that is
Highly
leading
trained.
your pack. and
Highly trained leader.
the underdog.
The underdog, if you will. Yes. No, but like the movement in it is really cool. If you have numbered cards in your hand, if you play a higher number on the right than on the left, your sled's gonna drift to the right. You got a brake on there. I mean, it's a
Is there
fun one.
Melting ice shelf that you're trying to cross, and then it starts cracking apart.
there is a chasm you have to get over.
Oh, awesome.
At a certain speed. If not, then you fall down the chasm.
Awesome.
It is awesome.
That is so cool.
So that's a fun one. Maybe we'll break that out for one game.
I've played a number of race games, and I'm blanking. There's a couple Reiner Knizia ones out there. There's a couple of
Formula D is a huge one.
Yeah, Formula D
I've got that one as well.
is a big one. I've never played that one, but again, I feel like it's a hard thing to get past the runaway leader experience in race games.
Long shot I think mitigates that pretty well,
Yeah.
right? Because you're betting on who you think is going to win,
Right.
You know, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to be in the lead,
And
right?
you can move horses backwards, which isn't very thematic, but
There's carrots over here.
you lost your jockey. Yeah. Come get him.
Yeah, it breaks down a little bit, but still, it's fun. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd play more race games. If you brought one out, I'd absolutely play it. But I don't know that they're my favorite genre. But as for now, Rallyman GT, I've enjoyed that one.
It's a good one. Awesome. So I recently played another game. Tyler's played this one. This is in the Pandemic family of games, and it is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. All right, so Star Wars: The Clone Wars is designed by Alexander Ortloff. Art's done by Atha Kanani, and is published by Z-Man Games. So if you've played a Pandemic game, you'll understand the basic concepts of this one. But it does do a few things that kind of switch up the formula a little bit, which I think are really cool. So it's set in, so obviously Star Wars: The Clone Wars setting. To start the game, you're going to pick a villain, and it's one of the villains in the Clone Wars. Okay. You're also going to build a mission deck. And this is one of the things that separates it, I think, the most from other Pandemic games. There's these missions. And you can set the difficulty level to whatever you want. You can do the Padawan level, which is 3, all the way to the Jedi Grandmaster, which is 6+ missions. And I think you will also lose if you do that many missions.
Obliterated. Yeah.
You probably will get obliterated. But if some off chance you win, that's got to be a pretty epic experience, right? So you have this mission deck. To play the game, it's 4 different steps. So you're going to have a hand of cards, and you're going to ready those cards. So you exhaust cards in the game to do certain things. Think, Magic the Gathering type of thing. So if you have exhausted cards, when your turn starts, then you're going to ready those cards. Then you're going to do 4 actions. So those actions are you can fly, you can reinforce, you can attack, or you can attempt a mission. So you're going to be doing one of these 4 things. After you do 4 actions, then you activate the villain. So this is where you flip over a card from the villain deck and it does nasty things that are going to prevent you from winning the game. A lot of times it's moving the villain closer to a mission or closer to where you're currently at. And then invade planets. So invade planets, there's going to be clones or these droids that are on the planets. So in base Pandemic, you have these disease cubes. In this version, you have droids. And if you get more than 3 droids on a planet, then bad things happen. There's no concept of outbreaks in this version, but if you get more than 3, then you're advancing on a track towards losing the game, right? So I mentioned missions. Missions, there's set collection in order to get these missions completed. Each mission card will have a few different icons on it that match to cards that you have in your deck, and those cards are called squad cards. If you match up the number needed to defeat the mission, then that mission gets completed. The cool thing is you can team up with other people that are in your group to go to a planet to complete that mission, and you collectively have to discard or exhaust that many cards in order to complete the mission. Then you flip over another mission, and it'll be associated with another planet. You got to go to that planet and complete that mission. When you complete all of the missions, then you have what is called the finale with the villain. You flip over the villain card, and it will reveal the finale and what you have to do to complete the finale. Once you complete the finale, then you have won the game. That's kind of the gist of it. I really like this version. I think it's, like I said, it switches things up a little bit. It does things different where it doesn't feel like you're playing, vanilla Pandemic.
Yeah.
And I love the villains concept. I love the missions concept. I love that it's set in the Star Wars universe. I think it pulls it off really well.
Yeah, I think I've only played it once, but it came down to the last turn, and it was an epic finish. It was fun. Yeah. I love that it's similar enough that anybody who's played Pandemic can pick it up quick, but I love that the missions and that the system is different, because I get tired of just playing 4 or 5 of this color card, and then you've healed this, whatever, like it's different enough, and it's fun. We really enjoyed it, and Disney didn't ruin this, which is fantastic. Cause
yeah, this is a success.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. So. We've almost gone back to it and played it a couple times as a family. We haven't done that yet, but it's still right at the top of our list of games to play when we do sit down to play.
Yeah. It's cool when you're doing the attack, it's kind of an all or nothing thing. If you're going to get rid of a blockade or if you're going to get rid of a droid, and you can get damage back depending on how much is still remaining on that world. And the way that the damage is handled is you have to discard a card from your hand, which is setting you back from completing missions, right?
Yep.
So that whole push and pull is kind of cool. The whole set collection part is cool. And like I mentioned, teaming up with other Jedi to go complete a mission just feels thematic and it feels fun.
Yeah.
And we haven't even explored, we've only played with one of the villains, and each villain has certain things that activate every round that are different.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that adds replayability to the game, variability, and it'll make each game feel different.
We played with Asajj Ventress, and it was Obi-Wan and Yoda, I think.
Yep.
Which villain
we
did you
played? So I was Yoda, and my buddy played. It might have been Obi-Wan. I can't remember for sure, but
yeah.
But we actually played 2 games back to back, and we switched it up after that and played different. We wanted to experience different. It was cool. It's fun. Tyson, you love Pandemic. Is this one that interests you?
I do not love Pandemic, but the Star Wars theme has me curious. Of all the variety of different Pandemic out there, Tyler talked about the World of Warcraft Pandemic a while back.
I would pick this over World of Warcraft,
okay.
But I'm a Star Wars. Well, you used to be a fan. Sorry, go ahead.
You're a Clone Wars fan.
You like Clone Wars?
Oh,
fan.
yeah, it's phenomenal.
And yeah, this I'd be interested in this from a thematic standpoint and experiencing it. Pandemic doesn't necessarily draw me into it.
I almost feel like he'd be more likely to play it if it didn't say Pandemic system on it.
Because you've played cooperative games that you enjoy.
I do, but I also
but not Pandemic.
I've never played a Pandemic game that I thought was amazing. I scratch that. I think that
season 1 and
season
2.
1. I didn't. Two was good, but I liked season 1 much better than of Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah, that's an incredible game. Yeah,
and that one is like the discovery alone for that game is what is so.
You get to open boxes with cool stuff, like over and over again.
Stuff. And,
the story was
draw
well
lines
done.
on the board. And
it was more compelling to me than just the Pandemic system. It did more than just that. So that was a draw for me, but if it's just like the Pandemic system bringing me in, I haven't had an experience that I really enjoy with it. But that doesn't mean that I don't recognize that it is a great system as well. We've had this discussion, and I think that it is a well-designed system. It's just typically not for me. I would try this one.
To be fair, like vanilla Pandemic bores me to death at this point. So I love these new versions of a Pandemic system, right? With the Warcraft and then Star Wars. I love the Cthulhu one. I love the Dutch
the
Rising Tide, trying to keep the country from flooding.
The Rome.
The Rome one is awesome.
Is that your favorite, you think? That one switches it up the most of any Pandemic
I think
game.
so. Yeah. Not counting the seasons.
Well,
obviously.
excluding those.
But the Fall of Rome. Yeah.
The Fall of Rome. That one may be my favorite. This one may be second as far as
Cthulhu's up there
them.
too, just because of the theme. But
I still haven't played that. I have it, but I
See,
haven't played
but all
it.
the pandemic games with all the various different systems and themes that they throw on there, none of the themes themselves are compelling enough for me to be like, oh, yeah, I want to play that. In fact, I think the most compelling theme of any pandemic game is base pandemic. I mean, and it was well before the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was, I loved the movie Contagion with Matt Damon and was it Gwyneth Paltrow that was in that one? Or I can't remember who else was in that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But that, like, I love the concept of like a worldwide outbreak of a disease that you have to contain. I like
morbid.
I like the
terrible.
Arnak factor and things like that. Like I like the science behind it. So base pandemic was more compelling as a theme to me. Everything else seems a little bit meh. That's very
Cthulhu. I mean, that's cool.
yeah.
I
but
love-
Cthulhu's in every other game as well.
It's a little overdone, maybe.
What's the
Yeah.
mobile game where it's just a map of the world and you're just trying to
yeah.
infect the
Is it
whole world?
virus.
But,
No, viral. It's
Plague Inc.
Plague Inc.
Plague Inc.
Plague. I
That
had
game
Plague in
is
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard that's awesome. I haven't played it.
Yeah.
I've played that, and
That's
yes,
awesome.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of you are the virus, and that
Or the bacteria or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the first experience I had with that game was on a road trip where my kids were playing it, and I was driving, and from the back seat, I could hear them cheering on all these bad things. Bloody eyeballs, 50 points. Yes, take this, Norway. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is going on back there?
Well, and it's always the hard to get it like to infect Greenland and Iceland. And there's
Yes.
a lot of times where you end the game where everybody else dies off, but like
But those
51
few
people
yeah.
survived in Greenland. Yeah. That game's awesome.
Yeah, I just remember like my
You're talking about
7-year-old.
morbid.
I just remember my 7-year-old turning to his brother and being like, total organ failure, 97%. How do I get the rest? I'm thinking, this is not good.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic. The Star Wars, the Clone Wars version.
Yeah, which was great. I'm excited to play it again.
Yep.
So another game that I got to play was the epic roll and write Twilight Inscription. This thing is a beast. I played a solo game to learn it, and then I played a second game with Logan on this same spring break trip. It's 120 minutes. It is designed by James Kniffen. What?
Sorry, I came up with a great transition.
Oh, what's your transition?
Yeah. My transition was, speaking of games that nobody was asking for more of.
Fair enough. So
This is a true statement.
yeah, so I actually really enjoyed it. So it's from Fantasy Flight Games. This is obviously in the Twilight Imperium world, which is the game that takes 5 to 9 hours to play and
So
is
you-
on my shelf of shame and is never going to get played.
But you went to a thing at Origins to learn how to play it, right?
I did. And I think that was the day after I had stayed up till like 3 editing one of the episodes, the previous episode. So I was exhausted. I took a good nap. To be fair, my turns were like every 25 minutes because everybody at the table was playing so slow. But yeah,
But it was a learning game
mean,
for everybody at the table, right?
it was.
It
But,
gave you a taste of it,
but
though, right? Enough
I'm
say you're
used
never
to
gonna
learning
play.
games with you guys,
Yeah.
and it was not that experience, right? So it was a little bit slower. Anyway, gave me a little bit of a taste. We didn't even finish the first round of the game, but this is the roll and write version in that world, and basically I think there's 18 rounds or so. You start out with 4 boards. You have a navigation board, an expansion board, a warfare board, and an industry board. And on each board, it's got different mechanics going on with how you fill in what is rolled for that current round on the dice. Okay, so there's 6 dice, there's 3 black dice, and then there's a pink, a blue, and a green. On normal rounds, you'll flip over a card and it'll have a couple of values that you can use on it. And it'll have some subtext that I don't know that we read after like the first card. But you at that point have to determine which of your 4 boards you're going to play on for that round.
4 boards per player is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And essentially each board is like a different Welcome to Moon, the space version, a different level. Like they each play differently, right? Which is
there
really
any
cool.
centralized boards?
No, there is not. I mean, there's like a score tracker type board or to track a couple other things. But basically you decide which board you're playing each round. And then after everybody's spent those couple of resources, 1 to 3 that are on the card, you'll roll the dice. One person will roll the dice, and then everybody uses those dice for the board that they've selected. Okay. If you've upgraded the color dice, the pink, the blue, or the green for the board that you've selected, then you will get to use those dice as well for that round. So you're trying to upgrade and add those dice abilities. There's also different abilities on each board that you can add. You can focus on navigation. Logan focused on warfare. There's not a lot of player interaction, but like when every once in a while a warfare card will come up for the round, and you will compare how much you've contributed to your fleet on your warfare sheet, and it determines how you do compared to the players on your left and right. And so then you'll get rewards and or negative points based on whether you win the battle or not, right? So there is a little bit of player interaction there. There's also the council event cards where a couple, like a decision card will come up, and you have votes that you've accumulated over the course of that round or up to that point in the game that you haven't spent. You can spend your votes to vote on the outcome of this council event. So there's some negotiation that could happen there. It's a little bit different in a 2 or 3 player game, I believe, where there's an AI component to it. But so you flip over these cards, you're either doing a normal round or you're doing a war event or a council event. And then you're just, you're filling in circles and lines and doing these different mechanics. And depending on what board you focus on, that just kind of determines where you're going in that game, right? So, and everybody starts out with a different faction that kind of determines, what you're going to focus initially, at least. And at some point, your boards start overlapping a little bit. So, like, you can do stuff on like your industry board that will affect your navigation. You can expand on your expansion board to do new planets to gain those rewards until you've navigated around on the navigation board and claim some of the new planets that way. So there is some interaction between the boards, which is really well done. The markers are like this bright orange. The boards are dark. The markers that you play with are like chalk markers. And they leave a little bit of a residue. They're kind of a pain to clean. The boards are a little bit of a pain to clean at the end of the game. It takes a few minutes, but they're like this bright orange, which just looks cool on your boards. So
that's cool. I wonder if that's a potential issue because when the markers dry up after a while, do they give you some replacements? Or?
So you have 8 markers.
Those are going to dry up too eventually. But
yeah, you have 8 markers. I think it plays up to 8 players. The nice thing about that is it should take the same amount of time regardless of how many people you have playing, unless somebody's really slow, because everything happens simultaneously.
Yeah. That's good.
I did look at the markers. I saw some comments in the forums, and like one guy said he got like 15 to 20 games or something out of a marker before he went on to the next one. But you can actually, if you go to the BGG forums, like people have linked other markers that they've bought on Amazon. I saw someone had fluorescent like green chalk markers, and
okay, yeah. So they're easy to get.
Yeah. So I've never played Twilight Imperium. I felt like I was getting a Twilight Imperium experience based off of what I know about the game.
I have played Twilight Imperium, and I enjoyed it. I don't think I loved it because of the length of play. I don't know any game that plays 6 to 12 hours. It's not something that I could play a lot more games in the same amount of time.
Right.
And I like playing a variety of games. So like it's a commitment and a lifestyle kind of game. This sounds more inviting to that kind of a experience, to get that taste of Twilight Imperium without having to invest the whole
day.
day and whatever it takes to learn the game. And then if you want to remember the game and play it again, it takes repetition, right? So like this sounds like a good taste for that. The one thing that I do think that I would miss from Twilight Imperium is there is a lot of player interaction in Twilight Imperium. And as you were describing it, Tyler, I was thinking to myself, if these 4 boards are existing, how am I going into territories of other people and conquering
it's nothing like that.
And utilizing their space or area control type of stuff? And that's where I was like, where's that?
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like they do anything with that.
I think like most roll and write games that I can think of, it's more of a solitaire experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
Cartographers has a little bit.
It does.
Yeah. Which is probably the worst part of the game.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I felt like I was getting that experience based off of what I know. You're right. It does not have the negotiation in it and the posturing, right? There's a little bit of posturing like, oh, Logan's building up his fleet. Oh, the AI is going up on the fleet track. Looks like I'm not winning a battle this round,
But it doesn't have the gravitas or the weight to it that like a Twilight Imperium battle, or like that you can see somebody building something up. You better prepare for something because there's an impact to you.
Yeah, it's pretty negligible. So
It still blows me away that this game was made.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally agree, but I really enjoyed it. And I would put this up there in some of my favorite roll and writes. I think Welcome to the Moon is up there. This is right up there with it.
Well, I obviously haven't played Twilight Inscription, but Welcome to the Moon is hands down my favorite. That's just so fun.
Yeah.
I don't
this
think
is like playing 4 games of Welcome to the Moon at once.
I don't think I'd ever get this played. I just, I'm not, I don't know if I'm really interested to play this one. I would play it at a game night for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I would say I'm not interested in owning this one because of the playtime.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. A 2-hour roll and write. I can't get my head around that.
It didn't feel like that though.
It went quick.
Yeah. I didn't feel bored at all. Put it that way. You're constantly doing stuff. Logan and I generally play at the same speed when we play games, and it just didn't drag at all. It
flowed really well.
Yeah. I had a great experience with it.
Yeah. I think you got to make that disconnect somehow between like your typical roll and write and this, because like I can't imagine playing Railroad Inc. or Welcome to the Moon or any of those games for 2 hours.
They're much
right?
more back-to-back games, but yeah, it's
right, but
not the same game
because they have a full arc in the time frame they're doing. But this sounds like it has a full arc.
When I play this game, at least the 2 times I've played, I've kind of focused on 3 boards. You're essentially playing 3 scenarios of Welcome to the Moon that are different at the same time. Would that keep you going for a couple hours?
Well, I mean, it could. Another consideration for me is my family. My family loves Welcome to. And if I tried to teach them this game, no. Yeah. It would not fly. For a family game for me.
Sure.
But for our game group, sure. Yeah. I would
and I think that's what most roll and writes have historically been, is more of that family weight.
Yeah, 15 to 35 minutes, right?
This is really kind of a genre-defining game of itself.
Well, there's Hadrian's Wall. Hadrian's Wall is another one, but that one's only plays up to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I think Twa Dice is a little more involved, but it's still on the lighter side.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this one, Twilight Inscription, definitely kicks it up a notch for sure. But I mean, there's an audience for it out there, and it sounds like it's a great game.
I had a blast with it. Like I said, I don't have the real game to compare it to, but I had fun with it, and I plan on going back to it, and I plan on keeping it in my collection.
Nice.
Which lately I've been pretty sell happy, getting rid of some games.
That is true. So. Yeah. So that is a good endorsement for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a place on your shelf.
Yeah. So that's Twilight Inscription. We mentioned Cthulhu Death May Die. Why don't we revisit that a little bit? That was the game that it closed out our spring break week.
Right. Correct.
Yep. So,
and what a way to close it out.
It was phenomenal. So it turned out to be just Kevin, Mark, and I at the game night. Dan and Tyson and Ben had other things going on. We've talked about this game at length. We did a feature review. On this particular night, we got out a couple of scenarios from season 2, which I haven't played all the way through yet.
And I hadn't even played any of them yet. So, yeah.
And it's scenario 2 and 3 that we played. And really, scenario 2, I mean, the scenario itself was kind of forgettable, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting.
I thought
you got the tents, the campsite spots, right?
Yeah, it was kind of weak. The third scenario was much cooler.
Oh, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I agree. So one thing I love about this game, and we've talked about it before, is you can have just the overwhelming feeling that there is not a chance that you're even going to disrupt the ritual, right? Let alone get to the end and face the big bad guy. So we had Haster that we were trying to go after, right?
Yeah.
And it was everything that we could do just to disrupt the ritual. We barely disrupted the ritual. And then we were dying left and right.
I died on the first turn after the ritual was...
Right. And usually this game is so hard when somebody dies, that's kind of game over at that point, at least in my experience, most cases.
Well, this is the thing that's so intriguing because when you go into this game, your hope or confidence in actually succeeding and winning is really, really low. Like you just know that everything is stacked against you and everything has to fall just right to even have a chance.
Right.
But somehow you just can't wait to see what happens, what's next. And it just sucks you in when hope is like, well, it's fantastic.
That moment, and we had it during this game, that moment when you see a path that, okay, all right. If everything goes as planned, if everything is perfect, then we could actually win this.
Which we've experienced with Nemesis.
Yeah, we've done that as well with Nemesis. This game, everything was stacked against us. I ended up dying as well. And it came down to Mark to save the day.
And we hadn't even defeated the first phase
That's right.
of Haster that you do damage to, right?
Yeah, right.
And we were still on the first card after that, and Kevin and I were both dead.
Yep.
And the scenario was such that I had no insanity that I could tolerate, and I couldn't take more than 1 damage in a counterattack. I needed to deal out 36, successful rolls without, incurring any of that.
Yeah, I made the comment, if we get past the second stage, moral victory, we'll move on and maybe play another game, right?
Yeah.
So Mark kept on going. He had fireproof pants.
That was awesome.
Which was amazing. So you got to burn down these campsites, right?
It turns out those are harder to find on Amazon, you would think, too. It kind of inspired me. But it was for all of our fashionable listeners out there.
It was hilarious. Mark was completely insane. Not completely. He was
one away from
going completely insane. So if you play this game before, you get more and more powerful the more insane you get. So he literally had a bucket full, a wheelbarrow full of dice that he was rolling each turn. And he would roll.
He had like 3 items that you had the throwing chainsaw.
Oh, you had a chainsaw?
You had a
handgun, chainsaw, and then enhanced ability based on the insanity level that I had upgraded my character to. So that I was armed to the teeth, basically.
Yeah, but it's funny. You were ranged, right? So you had the marksman ability.
That's right.
with the chainsaw. So you're checking the chainsaw at people, right? Doing all kinds of damage.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So it comes down to Mark at the end. We had somehow gotten through all stages of Haster.
Well, so Haster, he killed the first stage, and Haster respawned in the next room over, which was perfect because they're all across the whole map was a whole army of cultists and monsters, and there was no way that
you could get through.
Yeah. And so Haster spawns in the next room over at the red gate, and then Mark's just keeps on attacking, and he keeps resting and healing, and he wipes out the second health stage.
The coincidence was that one of the abilities that I had that gave me more dice to roll was when the character that I was attacking was adjacent, not in the same room. Right. And so the first phase defeating Hastur when he respawned in the next room, thought, okay, now all of a sudden he's not going to attack me, and you're giving me more ammo to deal out. This could get interesting after all. What?
Right.
Let's see how this kind of plays out.
So it comes down, we get to the last stage. Hastur spawns a little bit away. Mark had an ability, though, that he could go 4 spaces instead of 3. So you were able to position yourself, again, adjacent to Hastur, so you could do maximum amount of damage.
While still drawing all of the cultists and other...
Yeah, you're dragging everybody with you, right?
Actually, no, I had the sneak ability to where I was able to move through without having to... There was some upgrade that I did that allowed like the perfect, confluence of conditions to where I could concentrate all my actions on attacking without having to deal with anybody else.
And you had, you had rested, so you had, all your stress. You could reroll dice because if you took one more tentacle damage, you were dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, came down right to the end.
And you went mad.
There was one more action that resulted in a tentacle, which you
tried to re-roll multiple times
to stay alive.
I ran out of stress, and
you kept getting tentacles, and you died.
Officially went insane and died.
That's right.
But we won because
Hastur was defeated.
Yep.
And we actually had to consult the rule book to find out when multiple conditions happen, which is the prevailing, definition of victory or defeat.
Yeah.
And the condition of
that's what Kevin thought it was, and we confirmed it. We had to look it up, but it was awesome. It was epic. It was high-fiving, cheering. I died, and I went upstairs and took a break and came back downstairs and.
Right.
Like you guys were still playing. Kevin died shortly after that. And then, we have no hope whatsoever. Well, and then, the stars aligned. The Death Star has a porthole that you can shoot a proton.
Fortunately, it was the size of a
torpedo down.
We can nail it.
Yes, right. Like it just aligned perfectly. Yeah. And how you sprinted through you had a sprint ability item that you could get rid of. So you got through all the monsters to attack them at the end. And
that's got to be one of my favorite things about this game is that it is a roller coaster worth of emotion every time you play. It gives you hope when you shouldn't have any hope whatsoever. Yeah. Like
you're fighting elder ones.
Yeah, that's so thematic, right?
Yes, it's perfect.
Hopeless. And then it does throw you to that side of the spectrum of, oh, this is completely hopeless. There's no chance whatsoever. And then it throws you back and forth. And it's this kind of roller coaster. I love that about it.
Well, if you look at the conditions of the play we had where Tyler died the move after we disrupted the ritual. If it would happen before, the game would have ended right there.
We're resetting and starting over.
So we barely crossed the first threshold to at least continue. And even when he died, if I remember, the board was set up to where I was cornered and surrounded by basically everyone with no hope. And no matter how much damage I could do, I knew that somebody was going to attack me and I wouldn't survive because I didn't have the health to do it. And through some strange,
sequence of events, it just worked out.
Luck.
That's right.
There's definitely luck involved. Right.
It was awesome.
So you contrast that with the second game that we played.
We got destroyed.
We got completely destroyed. We did not disrupt the ritual. But as Tyler mentioned, the scenario itself was so interesting and so cool. And that's one of the best parts about this game is that every scenario that is set up adds something a little bit different that adds a different flavor to the game. And it's just amazing.
And some of them are like mini mechanisms. I mean, just like a whole new aspect to the game that just make it incredible. And that scenario did something like that.
Yeah, you're interrogating people, trying to figure out who did this murder. We kept on interrogating the same guy, right?
to get more and more information.
And it turned out it was him.
Yeah, it turned out he was the guy that was the murderer. But we had to make a last-ditch effort just to interrogate somebody and accuse somebody, deal justice. hoping that it's the right person. And if it's not the right person, it's a huge penalty, which basically means you lose the game, right? There's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
But it was our only choice, right?
That's right.
And we had to try that. And it would have been so epic if we got it right. But the story that unfolded, even though we didn't get it right, was just hilarious and it was fun.
Plus, I think that game I was lethargic.
Yes.
And so I was constantly falling down, laying down in rooms of
Catatonic.
monsters.
Catatonic,
Yeah. Which was amazing. I love that condition. It's
Mark had the
hilarious.
fear of crowds. So he couldn't be with people, even like monsters.
That is such a great twist to the game, having those psychoses that can affect.
And I cannot wait for those new ones that are going to come out with season 3 and 4. So
I don't know how you could get them even better than what they've got. I mean, it's just one more thing that makes the game so stacked against you. The characters are awesome, right? And by themselves, and even the backstories are really hilarious. The
kid.
Well, every single one of them, right?
Cool.
I mean, we
Father
looked through
Luke.
all of them, and we thought, how do we pair these well cooperatively, right? So that we've got abilities that will play off each other. And the first play we did, it was just kind of random luck, right? We kind of looked through and we're like, God, this looks like an interesting character, and it worked out. But the second play, at least for me, I thought, okay, well, now I have a better understanding of how these abilities work together. I want to pick one that I think is really going to work. And it was an absolute disaster.
But it was so much fun.
It was
great.
It was hilarious. We were laughing.
It was just as much fun as the first game.
Well, so here's what I would ask, right? When you think back of when we've played games as a group, how often have we played a game and thought, we need to replay this right now? It doesn't happen all that often.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is one of those occasions where not a new game, we were all familiar with it, and yet somehow we thought,
let's reset and do it again. Yeah.
Let's go.
And I love that when we get games to the table where we don't have to do rules explanations.
Sure.
Yep.
That is huge for a game night. It just, the flow of the night is so much better. We can get more time actually gaming. And that's for that reason I picked season 2, Cthulhu: The Death May Die, because I knew we could just jump right into it, right?
Well, and what you didn't know is that even though it was spring break, like I was fried. Like
I was too. We'd driven 8 hours the day before coming home, and I had worked that day.
It was a game where you certainly have to think and pay attention, but it wasn't overwhelming to try and digest, and then to where the experience is lost because your brain is waving the white flag, right?
Yeah.
It was enough to where we could think about it and enjoy it, and even do a replay. So the timing and theme and the scenario, everything kind of lined itself up very, very conducive to like a great finale to the week, right? And it was fun.
It was perfect.
It was a good time. Let's play it. Let's play it again.
Yeah.
We got a lot of content coming, so
we do. We need to get through season 2, and then I've got the Unspeakable box scenarios that we need to play too.
Nice. Yeah.
So
I didn't get any of the season 1 or season 2 in my Kickstarter pledge. I went all in on 3 and 4, but I didn't get anything. I did get the Unspeakable box, actually, I think, as well. And
for season 3 and 4, right?
No, I think I got season
Unspeakable boxes for seasons 1 and 2.
Yes,
yeah.
They have a different name for the season 3.
Right. I didn't even. Sorry, I didn't remember. I didn't even think that it was available.
They did. They made it available.
They did.
For a lot more expensive than it was originally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited as well for the new content.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be great.
From the Kickstarter campaign, it sounds like it's going to add some twists that are a little bit different. That'll make it probably even harder, but hopefully even more fun than what it already is.
We've been getting updates as well in the Kickstarter campaign emails with the new art and the boards that are placing. And there's some fun looking scenarios and tiles in there as well that should be interesting. I think.
So that brings up an interesting question to me, and I'll ask for you guys. Given the, potential for scenarios that we haven't played and that are still to come, would you ever go back and replay any of the scenarios that you have, knowing what you know, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
And I have gone back and played with family, extended family that's visiting, because it's a cooperative game. It's easy to teach while you start to play it. And so it's perfect for introducing to new people when you've got a couple people that are already played it.
And it plays out different every time, regardless of the scenario. So I would go back and play scenario 3 from season 2.
Absolutely.
so
Multiple times, right? And see if I can actually find the guy who did the murder.
Yeah, right.
Well, and
You know?
so the secondary question I'd ask is, did you enjoy it as much or more the second time, repeating the scenario?
I was gonna say this a minute ago, and I didn't say it, but when we've been playing through it as a family and we get stuck on a scenario for a few plays, it doesn't bug me at all. Swap in a new elder one and it just changes it up enough. Plus we're swapping our characters. So
Right.
it's a different experience, even though the scenario is the same, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes the scenarios are kind of weak. There are some epic ones, but some of them are just go to this spot and do this thing and go to this other spot and do this thing. And that's okay. But the characters and the elder one change it up enough that it's just fun to try again and again.
Yeah. And some of the scenario, well, if you replay a scenario you've already played, then it's easier to get into that scenario because you already know the rules and you can jump into it quick.
Yeah.
I don't think you lose a whole lot. You lose that sense of discovery a little bit.
A little bit,
But not enough that I think it takes away from the experience.
Well, there's still enough variety in the Mythos cards, right? And certainly the way you roll the dice impact what happens, right? So it's not a foregone conclusion. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if you have that experience, do you automatically unlock the path to victory? And it sounds like the answer is no. Right?
No.
Yeah.
Plus, I want to be the one with the fireproof pants next time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You got to experience all the cool stuff.
That worked out well for me.
some of the items are just awesome. They're so good and just hilarious. Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I must not have been paying that close attention, but in the second game, you had the Molotov cocktail like locked and loaded, ready to go at most.
I had two of them.
You had two of them, and somehow it never registered for me. And you were like, I think I should probably use these. And the light bulb goes off, and I'm like, dude, you've had that the whole time. Why didn't we? That sounds like it would have been really helpful.
Well, I knew I had to use them because they were in the same hand, and I had the condition where you have to balance. Is it the obsessive?
Obsessive compulsive.
OCD, yeah.
You have to balance
Which is
the
awesome.
items or cards that you have on both sides of your player board.
Or you lose
And they
them.
were both in the same hand. So I was like, oh, I got to throw them. Got to get them in this room. Get rid of them.
One thing I don't know about is the flying polyp? That was
Yes. One of the monsters.
yeah,
and
one of
the,
the monster. That one kind of creeped me out a little bit.
yeah, the flying polyp. That just sounds terrible.
Anyway, we don't need to go into that, but
I remember him being,
Especially as we get of age of the colonoscopies.
where's this polyp flying from?
take care of yourselves, people. That's the message.
Oh man,
They are nasty buggers.
Yeah.
jeez. Yeah, so that's
Well, okay.
yeah. Do we want to just end on that?
That was Cthulhu Death May Die. We talked about that in many episodes. It's one of our favorite games. And
This is season 2. This was season 2.
And hopefully, there was a little spoiler content there. Not too bad about the scenarios. We're excited for season 3 and 4 to come out to fulfill. What other things are we excited about?
So one thing I'm excited about.
Kevin, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I know Tyler. When he heard about this, I mean, I could
was on
hear
the
the
edge of my
screams
seat.
of excitement
Yes.
from my house. I don't know. He may have been at his house at work. I don't know. He was really excited about it. But this one, Lost Ruins of Arnak. This one is The Missing Expedition. Just got announced.
Who's missing, Kevin?
Somebody, and we're gonna find whoever that is, and it's gonna be amazing.
Professor Kutil,
Yep. We all know about him.
Yep.
He is. We're going to find him. It's going to be great.
the face of the game.
There is some kind of campaign that's involved. It's either a 1 or a 2 player campaign. I'm sure the story will be fleshed out, and it's going to be awesome. It adds new characters that you can play with. a lot of things were added into the first expansion, which made, variable player powers and different things that you can do. I think there's more of these people that are added, which is awesome. More of a good thing is great. So I'm looking forward to Lost Ruins of Arnak, the missing expedition.
So to clarify, though, because I wasn't sure until I double checked it, was that the expansion content itself can be played independent of that campaign. So it is not expansion content that is exclusively 1 or 2 players. This is expansion content that can be played for all player counts.
Yes, but if you're doing the campaign, then it's a 1 or 2 player campaign. Okay. But all the other content can be.
But you can play it without.
Yeah.
I think it's similar to the Dead Reckoning mini sagas. You can play them as the saga, or you can just add in the content.
Yep. So Lost Ruins of Arnak, the missing expedition.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear how your plays of that go. When is this coming out? Do you know?
I think they said Gen Con they'll have some copies, I'm sure, but I'm not sure exactly when.
I'm going to be running to that booth.
You better.
That is sarcastic, but that is fine. If I am there,
I will
a
copy. If you're not there,
if I'm not there, I would appreciate a copy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I will.
Absolutely. You'll do that.
I'll walk slowly to the booth in an orderly fashion for you.
Oh, okay.
Then they're going to be all gone.
You got to hurry.
You got to run.
I'm just going to be taking in the overall experience.
Then you'll get nothing.
And you'll like it.
Right. All right. What's everybody else excited about?
I was excited. Something came up today in our Discord. Timbo Mojo, one of our good buddies, Tim, who we've met through the podcast. Well, we haven't actually met him in person, but
hopefully eventually we meet.
Eventually. Yeah,
absolutely.
He drew attention to the fact that Ark Nova is on BGA and Alpha. I am super excited about this because my only play was at Origins last year. It was okay. It was a good experience, but I hadn't had a chance to go back to it. And now that it's on Board Game Arena, we can really explore Ark Nova and see, if it's really worthy of all the praise that it gets and the high ranking that it has.
Because usually if a game's in the top 10, it's a solid game, right? So there's something to it. Because I had a similar experience to you. We played it that one time. I had fun with it, but it wasn't earth-shattering, right? It wasn't like, this is going to be the number 4 game of all time and could be higher than that. But there's obviously something there. And I'm, in BGA, if a game's on BGA, you can really explore it.
Yeah.
You can really get into it.
I'm really excited about that. Yeah. You know what else is creeping closer to the top 10?
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. What is it?
It's the game. Oh, you just love this game
so
much. And the expansions that have come out
12.
are just amazing, and you love them 12. So much. Yeah.
It's
number
creeping
12.
up. It's creeping up.
Yeah.
It could be in the top 10 here soon.
And you like that one, right?
I do. Tyson, what are you excited about?
So the game that I am most excited about right now is one that's on Kickstarter. I think it's in a package of games, but it is from AEG Games, and it's Point City.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
We've talked a lot about Point Salad on this podcast.
And you play this with your kids.
And I play Point Salad all the time with my kids, and I love it. This game, Point City, sounds even better to me than Point Salad does. It adds an engine building component to it that makes it sound like, okay, there's a lot more I can do with the cards that I'm acquiring to build and score these points. That makes me really excited about it. I'm afraid that I'm not going to buy this one, though. I think that
I backed it first
Tyler
day.
backed it, right?
Just that one. I didn't back the other game.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to back it personally because I play so much of Point Salad with my kids. I don't think that they are ready to add an engine building component to their experience and gameplay and where they are in their games. But
they're a year or two away from that.
Yeah.
And you'll miss out on the Kickstarter promos and exclusives.
But I'm not too worried about that because I'll play yours. And if this game is... Point Salad is so readily available. You can get this game anytime you want. So I'm not worried about being able to get this down the road, but I am excited that they are continuing this line of games, and I love Point Salad, so I'm excited to see how Point City shakes down.
They're really well done. You didn't do back deep dive? You just did.
I didn't.
You just did Point City?
Yeah, for now, I think it's still active, and I might change my mind. But
It's not. I mean, it's $35, so it's not crazy. So I took a chance on deep dive.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So
cool.
we'll see.
Then I'm
So-
definitely not going to back it.
Yeah.
So this Kickstarter ends on April 14th. So you got a little bit of time still to go, a couple weeks of the recording of this podcast.
So while I was visiting family on my vacation, one thing that I always do when I go to my parents' house is we bust out this yellow board and play an amazing game of Acquire. Ooh. And it was fantastic, and I loved it. And I just love that game. I'm excited about the
new version.
The new version is coming out. It's to commemorate the 60th year, I believe.
That sounds right.
Even more excited about it, I saw they've posted the image of the back of the box, and it has the old hotels, excluding they've replaced Luxor with Saxon, which some earlier versions did. But I am extremely excited about that. I was very particular about I want the old hotel names, and they're not the same colors, but that's fine. I don't care. The fact that they have worldwide and festival and American and continental, like, I'm excited about that. So I'm definitely going to get this version. I've got a couple of copies already. This game's my bread and butter. I love this game.
This is like the golden age of Acquire, because you got like Donna Vulos coming. That's
I'm excited for that.
Acquire system.
That's going to be here in a few months, I think. Yeah. Probably before Tyson's Darwin's Journey copy.
Probably.
My Darwin's Journey update is that I got an update this week from the campaign that said, as of tomorrow, Friday, we are getting our quartermaster logistics confirmation email if your address has changed. I don't know what that means, that, hey, it's still going to be a while down the road before they start shipping them, but
you got at least 3 or 4 months probably.
It's closer, but it's always been closer. Every day has been closer.
Oh, man.
I'm excited for that.
I mean, I might get 7th Citadel before you get...
I hope not.
Update on the next podcast. Well, we're going to do a running update, I think.
I like this.
Darwin's Journey.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's close.
I feel like we already kind of have.
I think
we've talked about it every episode.
Because I get harassed every time.
Yeah, that's true.
The first play is going to be amazing, though.
I've
the
played
build-up
it,
is going to be...
and I love the game. You guys are going to end up playing it, and then all this hype has been built up, and you're going to be like, meh, it's okay. And that's going to break my heart.
Nah, I hope
it'll make amazing discussion content.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope it's the best game ever.
Yeah.
Me too.
Every game I play, I hope it's the best game ever.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would
especially when there are new expansions.
Yeah.
For
Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Great games.
It's great.
Yep.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys are excited about? Mark?
I'm excited of the prospect of Tyler skipping down the hall at Gen Con to get that game.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Can somebody take a video of that, please? Yeah. If you're at Gen Con and you see Tyler.
I mean, there's so much potential there. That could almost be the new mascot for the Longest Term podcast, but
skipping
awesome.
Tyler? Yeah.
I mean, no pressure, but that would be awesome.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the old Super Smash Brothers commercial, of the original Nintendo 64 Super Smash Brother commercial with the "Imagine me and you. I think about you every day and night. It's only right." I could see you doing a montage to that song.
I missed that one.
You've never seen? You got to look that up.
I missed that as
I
well.
might have been like in college or
it's
something.
It's like mascots, like Mario and Yoshi and Star Fox. They're all in like their mascots
because he's young,
each
right?
other.
Yeah.
It's great.
I wasn't really in college that far back.
You weren't.
No.
I will say though that based on
I will check that out.
No, you need to.
What do I search for?
Super Smash Brothers Nintendo 64 commercial. It'll come right up, and it'll be the best thing you ever watched.
And you're going to be prancing like that commercial.
Like the Teletubbies? Oh. Oh, awesome.
Happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo.
All right, I'm going to watch the other 10 seconds of this later. But I get what you're saying now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
context.
Anything else?
But game wise, actually, I think you convinced me that Undaunted Normandy, when that hits the table, I would very much like to be at the table.
I mean, it's only 9:30. Just saying.
Right. No, I would absolutely be up for playing that.
Okay.
Let's end this right now.
We'll
Let's go.
revisit that in a second.
Yeah.
So this episode, we just kind of talked about the games that we've been playing a lot lately over our spring break. We took a week or so off and getting back into the swing of things. Our next episode, Perseverance.
Nice. Getting that one played shortly.
We're going to play that on Saturday here. So
Let's do it. Dinosaurs. Awesome.
get some plays of that.
Never go wrong with the Mind Clash game. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
We'll see how it plays out.
So far we
Yes.
haven't.
Yeah, so far we haven't, but we'll see how this one plays out.
Thanks for joining us again, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Good to
Be
Bringing
here.
your
Good seeing everybody. As
wisdom
always.
and humor and knowledge.
I'm still waiting for one of those things to be true. But I do feel flattered.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more Longest Turn in your life, please check us out on Instagram. Also, be sure to check us out on Board Game Geek, where you can join our guild, Guild 3947, and check out our blog, where we post all our show notes and occasionally post more detailed reviews. If that's not enough for you, we have a Discord server. If you want to play a game with us on Board Game Arena, join our Board Game Arena group, The Longest Turn. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Told scenes.
Goodbye.
See you later.
Excited to explore.
Just waiting for you to say, yeah, and while you're at it, your fly's been down for 2 hours.
Barn doors open.
Is it me?
It's you.
All right.
What a transition.
Yeah. Come up with one for me.
Is it me? That was a good transition. That's what I'm saying. Objectively speaking,
I had so many things I was going to write
Ruins
after
of
that. I'm
Arnak
like,
cannot be
I'm done.
mediocrity in a box.
Fine.
it is
That
not
comment
even-
took it a little far. I did
and
say
that's why-
before
that's why
that
I'm like,
I've given it.
F it, I'm out. Like, I don't care anymore.
Were you
Like,
getting fired up?
mediocrity box? Well, I'm going to write something. I'm like, yeah.
I saw your
I
name.
don't want to engage him
I saw
anymore.
your name come up, like, and then it would go away, and then it would go. Kevin's typing.
Wait a
No,
minute.
it would go away.
Can't somebody like what they like? I don't know.
Apparently, I
not.
never said you couldn't like it.
Except
Mediocrity
that you
box.
like mediocrity in a box.
Yeah.
I said
I like that. Whatever.
no. I said I did my due diligence. I've gone back to this game multiple times trying to play it, and it doesn't have a spark for me.
No, that's fair.
And
I thought that was
that's what I
a
said.
fair
That's
assessment.
completely
That's
fine.
absolutely fine.
I don't care
and I
about
agree
that.
with that. I agree with that.
You
But
you
saying-
kicked it off by saying
You kicked it off
Tyler's
by going like
Tyler's
this.
judgment is clouded by
No, you
Dune
kicked-
Imperium.
You kicked it off by going, "Oh," that's the emoji that you put on the game. And I'm like, screw you, dude. I'm like, whatever. I didn't start it. You started
Oh, come on.
You started. You can't even say that
I
you didn't start it.
was having a.
Oh, yeah.
I was tired at work. I
yeah,
didn't
that's
sleep
right.
well the night before because we'd been playing
No,
Halo.
I stand by
Right, and
your
the
love
perfect
affair with
opportunity. was-
Tyler's
Duncan-
judgment for his love of Dune Imperium is clouding his judgment.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Duncan, Idaho over here is like,
That's funny.
I think someone should develop a mediocrity in a box, the game.
That'd be awesome.
Dude, it would kill it. Just
open
based
it
on
up and kill it.
irony. Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
No, but
Not everybody
PA
loves
Rob,
the game.
PA
I said
Rob,
no hate. No hate.
Then
How
you
is there
said
no hate?
mediocrity in a box.
Yeah, how is that not hate? You don't understand what that means.
is that the Ricky Bobby, like,
I'm
No
happy.
offense,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. It's the same as saying, if I put no offense in front of stuff, it means
No
that I can
hate.
do whatever I want.
Yeah, right.
No hate. I'm happy you are happy to explore the new expansion.
I think they should have come up with a better name for him.
Duncan, Idaho? That's ridiculous.
Duncan
I have
Pocatello.
no history in Dune, and I watched the movie, and I'm like, huh?
Oh, yeah,
What's
everybody's
his
got
name?
awesome names. And
Duncan, Idaho?
Please
What
have
the crap is this?
Haderach, and then there's Duncan Idaho.
Yeah, yeah.
I was so confused.
You
The
got
most-
tons of words that you can't even pronounce, and then
Bene Gesserit, Quis Haderach. Yeah.
My name's Duncan. Like,
By the way, I'm also Jason Momoa.
Yeah, right. I have a trident.
They're running
like
out of
the
time.
name.
We're like, let's just put something down and move on.
Duncan, Idaho sounds like an 80s action hero to me.
It does. Like Rip. What's
Or
the
even
guy
worse,
that's
it sounds
in
like-
Oh, yeah.
Escape from New York? What's his name?
Snake Plissken.
Snake Plissken.
Or who's the Utah? Johnny Utah.
Johnny Utah.
Right? Johnny Utah, Duncan,
Jack
Idaho.
Burton. There are some good 80s.
Yeah, but those
What-
were like in context,
What was,
right? It was like
yeah,
all
Johnny
people
Utah
in
was.
this isn't like in a galaxy that you could have full creative license to do whatever.
Yeah, what should we name our child? Duncan.
Fine. But when I
Back to your comments.
But when I read that, I was like, "Whoa!"
There's no adjective.
I'm so excited to find out what happened to this guy.
There's no associated adjective with it that's like the nefarious Professor Cutrell or the
Yeah.
like,
yeah, they're probably going to do more there. Okay, you cut out the monkey,
Yeah,
right? I was so close to say, oh, yeah, there's no other game that borrows a successful franchise's theme. Nemesis. Like, that never happened. This must be the first time that's ever happened.
Final Girls.
Final Girl.